You didn't wake up one day feeling numb. It happened slowly. You gave too much. You ignored your needs. You silenced your truth and called it love. You kept giving, even when it hurt, even when no one gave back. You thought that's what love is. But love doesn't ask you to disappear. Real love sees you. Real love respects your limits. But somewhere along the way, you learn to confuse sacrifice with care. You learn to confuse silence with peace. You learn to confuse detachment with failure. But detachment isn't coldness. Detachment is clarity. It's seeing without losing yourself. It's feeling without drowning in it. It's being present without absorbing everything. You don't need to carry it all. You don't need to fix everyone. You don't need to stay where it hurts. You don't need to explain your worth. That's where detachment begins. Not from people, but from patterns, from the need to be needed, from the fear of being alone, from the illusion that saving others saves you. Because that's what you were taught. That being selfless means being silent. That being kind means being small. But that's how you vanish. That's how you go numb. That's how you become a stranger to yourself. You say yes when your gut screams no. You stay when your body wants to run. You smile when your soul aches. And then wonder why you're exhausted. Why you feel empty. Why you crave peace but can't find it. Because you lost your center. You gave it all away. To people. To approval. To validation. You chased connection, but forgot yourself. You abandoned your own voice. That's not love. That's survival. That's fear masked as loyalty. That's codependency in disguise. And the world praises it, especially in women. Be quiet. Be sweet. Be agreeable. Don't be too much. Don't have boundaries. Don't say no. And so you shrink. Over time you disappear. And they say you're easygoing. But inside, you're screaming. You don't want to be easygoing. You want to be real. But being real means losing people. So you keep the mask. You keep the peace. Even when it costs you everything. But Jung said it best. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who they want you to be. Not who makes others comfortable. Not the role you've played for survival. Who you truly are. And becoming her means choosing yourself. Means saying no more often. Means setting boundaries. Means detaching from dysfunction. Not because you don't care, but because you finally do. You care enough to stop betraying yourself. You care enough to walk away. Even when it hurts. You care enough to break cycles. To stop the bleeding. To heal the wound, instead of covering it with more giving. You don't owe anyone your breakdown. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your energy, especially not people who drain it. This is the hard truth. Some people only love the version of you that benefits them. The one who never complains. The one who stays quiet. The one who bends. But your real self? The one who speaks up? She threatens them. She's dangerous because she can no longer be controlled. And they will say you've changed. They will say you're cold. They will say you're selfish. But let them talk. You're not here to be understood by people who don't see you. You're not here to play roles. You're here to live fully, honestly, without guilt, without shame, without apology. That's what emotional detachment really is. It's not shutting down. It's waking up. Waking up to the truth that your worth isn't earned through pain, that your love isn't proven through suffering, that your peace doesn't need permission. So detach from the old stories, from the roles that drained you, from the guilt that kept you small, from the fear of being misunderstood. You're allowed to outgrow what once felt like home. You're allowed to walk away without explaining. You're allowed to protect your peace, even if no one claps for you, even if they never understand. You don't need to be loved by everyone. You need to be loved by yourself. That's where it all begins. That's where the power is. Not in pleasing, but in being. Not in giving more, but in returning to your center, in finding your voice again, in standing in your truth, even if it shakes, even if it costs you people, because the cost of abandoning yourself is far greater, and you're done paying it. You didn't start life afraid to feel. You learned that fear. Someone taught you. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was silence. Maybe it was chaos in your childhood. Your feelings were too much for someone, so you shut them down. You learned to hide, to numb, to please instead of express. You survived by suppressing, not by being seen. You became who they needed, not who you were. That's how emotional detachment begins. Not as a choice, but as protection. And protection makes sense. You needed safety, but now you're an adult, and the old armor is choking you. You stay calm when you're breaking inside. You smile when you want to scream. You listen to others but silence yourself. You call it strength, but it's fear. The fear of being vulnerable. The fear of being rejected. The fear of being abandoned. But emotional detachment isn't healing. It's a wound pretending to be healed. It's ice where there should be warmth. It's control where there should be flow. And maybe it kept you alive, but now it keeps you stuck. You want connection, but don't trust it. You crave intimacy, but push it away. You attract people who can't see you because you don't show yourself. You don't want to be hurt, so you disconnect first. But disconnection isn't peace. It's just silence. It's just isolation in disguise. And the longer you live there, the harder it is to come back. Back to your feelings. Back to your body. Back to your truth. You can't heal what you don't feel. And you can't feel if you're always detached. This is what happened to Mia. She grew up in a house of yelling. Every feeling turned into a war, so she became quiet. She stayed out of the way. She got straight A's. She was always polite. Everyone said she was mature for her age. But inside she was lost. She never learned how to cry. She never learned how to ask for help. She only knew how to perform. Now she's 30. In a relationship that feels empty. She doesn't fight. She doesn't cry. She doesn't speak up, and she wonders why she feels so alone. She detached to survive, but never reattached to live. That's what happens to so many of us. We learn to turn off our feelings, but no one teaches us how to turn them back on. So we stay stuck, numb but functional, smiling but aching, present but disconnected. And we think it's normal. We think this is what adulthood means. But it's not. You don't have to live this way. You don't have to fear your own emotions. They're not your enemy. They're your compass. Anger shows you your limits. Sadness shows you what matters. Fear shows you what's unresolved. Joy shows you what's aligned. But if you detach from one, you lose them all. You can't numb selectively. You can't avoid pain and still feel love. You can't run from shame and still feel worth. Healing means returning to the body, to the breath, to the truth you buried. It's not easy. It will feel foreign at first, because you spent years avoiding it. But you're not broken. You're just unpracticed. Emotional detachment isn't permanent. It's reversible. But only if you want it. Only if you're ready to feel the sadness you swallowed, to sit with the anger you hid, to grieve the years you lost, not to punish yourself, but to reclaim yourself, because every feeling you denied was a part of you, and every part deserves to come home. That's where the power is. not in staying frozen, but in thawing, in softening, in choosing to feel again, even if it hurts, even if it's messy, even if it scares you, because on the other side of that fear is freedom, real freedom, not the kind that's quiet and alone, but the kind that breathes, the kind that laughs, the kind that loves fully, not because it's safe, but because it's real. So come back to your body, to your feelings, to your breath. Cry if you need to, scream if you must, shake, break, let it move through you. That's not weakness. That's your return to yourself, to your truth, to your heart. And it was never too much. You were never too much. You were just around people who couldn't hold what you felt. But you can. Now you can. You don't have to detach. You get to feel. You get to be whole. You keep giving and giving and giving until there's nothing left. Not because you're selfless, but because you're scared. Scared of being abandoned. Scared of disappointing someone. Scared they'll stop loving you. So you overcompensate. You ignore your needs. You pretend you're fine. You say yes when you mean no. You stay silent to keep the peace. You become who they need, not who you are. You shrink to fit. You betray yourself quietly and call it loyalty. But it's not love. It's fear in disguise. It's control through compliance. You don't want to lose them, so you lose yourself first, and you hope they'll notice. But they rarely do, because you train them to expect your silence, to expect your sacrifice, to expect your detachment. You disconnected from yourself, just to stay connected to them. You think this is strength, but it's self-erasure. You're slowly vanishing, piece by piece, smile by smile, agreement by agreement, until you wake up one day and wonder who you are, where you went, what you feel, and why you're always so tired. That's what happens when emotional detachment becomes your default. You stop showing up as you. You become a mirror, reflecting what others want, but not what you need. And here's the truth. No one can love the real you if you never show them. And no one will respect your boundaries if you never set them. And no one can save you if you're too afraid to save yourself. This is what happened to Josh. He was always the nice guy, always available, always agreeable, always smiling. He dated people who took and never gave back. He said it didn't bother him, but deep down, he felt invisible. He never said no. He never asked for more. He thought love meant sacrifice, so he kept giving, even when it hurt, even when it broke him, until one day, he couldn't do it anymore. He looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. That's when he realized emotional detachment wasn't keeping him safe. It was keeping him lost. He didn't feel loved. He felt erased. And the worst part? He did it to himself. No one forced him to disappear. He just never believed he had the right to fully exist. And maybe you feel that too. Like your value comes from what you offer, not from who you are. But that's a lie. You don't have to earn your place. You don't have to become useful to be loved. You don't have to perform to be wanted. Your existence is already enough. But you'll never believe that if you keep abandoning yourself to keep others around. Real love doesn't require your disappearance. Real love sees you, hears you, meets you where you are, even when you're messy, even when you're scared, even when you say no. And if someone leaves because you finally showed up as your full self, let them. Their absence is not your failure. It's their limitation and your liberation. But that starts with you, with choosing presence over performance, with choosing truth over peacekeeping, with choosing wholeness over approval. That's how you stop losing yourself, not by withdrawing completely, but by staying connected to you first. Feel what you feel, even if it's uncomfortable. Speak what's true, even if it shakes your voice. Say no when you need to, even if they don't like it. This is how you rebuild, not by fighting others, but by refusing to fight yourself. You are not too much. You are not too needy. You are not hard to love. You've just been loving people who benefited from your detachment, people who liked your silence, because it made their lives easier, but your healing might disrupt them. And that's okay. You're not here to be easy. You're here to be whole. And sometimes that means unlearning the role you played, the role that kept you small, the role that kept you numb, the role that kept you safe. But safe doesn't mean free. And free is what you deserve. Free to feel, free to speak, free to say, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." That's power. Not the kind that controls, the kind that returns you to yourself. Because the most radical thing you can ever do is stay. Stay with your truth. Stay with your needs. Stay with yourself. That's the end of detachment and the beginning of home. You thought detaching meant being cold, being distant, being numb. But that's not detachment. That's shut down. Real detachment is clarity. It's presence without chaos. It's love without obsession. It's giving without losing. You can love someone deeply and still say no. You can care endlessly and still keep space. But when you weren't taught boundaries, you confuse love with merging. You confuse closeness with control. You think letting go means losing. You think space means rejection. So you grip tighter. You check their phone. You reread messages. You analyze tone. You spiral over silence. You panic over change. Not because you're clingy, but because you're afraid. Afraid they'll leave. Afraid they'll forget you. Afraid you're not enough. So you try to manage them. To predict. To prevent. To protect. But all that energy pulls you further from yourself. You forget your hobbies. You stop seeing friends. You lose your focus. You feel drained. Because hyperfixation is exhausting. And obsession is not intimacy. It's self-abandonment disguised as devotion. You don't want a partner. You want relief. From anxiety. From loneliness. From feeling unworthy. But people can't fix that. Only you can. And that starts with emotional detachment. Not from others, but from the outcomes. From the fantasy. From the illusion of control. Let go of needing them to choose you. Let go of needing them to stay. Let go of the idea that your worth depends on their presence. Because it doesn't. You are whole without their validation. You are safe without their approval. You are love without their love. That's what detachment means. You stop making others your oxygen. You stop making relationships your mirror. You stop outsourcing your peace. This is what happened to Lila. She had always been anxious in love. Always waiting for the text. Always wondering what he meant. Always afraid he'd leave. She'd overthink every message. Replay every word. She thought about him constantly. Until there was no room for her. She stopped painting. Stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. All for someone who barely showed up. She thought that was love. But it was addiction. Not to him, but to being chosen. One night, he didn't reply. 4 hours. She spiraled. And something inside her broke. Not from pain, but from clarity. She realized she didn't miss him. She missed feeling enough. So she chose herself. Blocked his number. Deleted the thread. Went on a walk. and cried, not because he left, but because she finally did. She left the old self behind, the self who begged, who waited, who chased, who proved. That was the beginning of freedom. She returned to painting. She went to therapy. She sat with the discomfort, and she built a life where she was the center, not a satellite. Now, when she dates, she doesn't lose herself. She shows up whole, with boundaries, with clarity, with peace, because she's not trying to be chosen. She already chose herself. That's the power of detachment. It's not about not feeling. It's about not collapsing. You feel fully, but you stay rooted. You care deeply, but you don't chase. You open your heart, but you don't abandon it. Because the truth is, the right person will never require you to vanish to keep them. They'll meet you in your fullness. They'll honor your boundaries. They'll love you as you are, not for who you pretend to be. But that only happens when you stop settling for crumbs in exchange for closeness, when you stop shrinking for the sake of survival, when you stop mistaking chaos for passion. This is your work now, to sit with the void, to stop filling it with people, to stop numbing it with noise, to feel the ache without chasing a cure, because only then can you return to yourself, not the version shaped by others, not the mask you learned to wear, but the self underneath, steady, still, worthy, complete. You won't always get it right. You'll still feel the urge to reach out, to fix, to explain. But pause, breathe, ask yourself, is this love or is this fear? Your body knows. Trust its signals. Notice the tension, the tightness, the racing thoughts. Those are signs. You're leaving yourself again. Come back, feel your feet, hold your heart. You are safe now. You are allowed to choose peace, even if it costs the relationship. You are allowed to choose truth, even if it brings discomfort. You are allowed to be whole, even if it means being alone. That's not failure. That's freedom. And you were born for it. It's not easy to detach, especially when you were raised to believe love is sacrifice, to believe closeness means control, to believe that letting go means losing everything. But the truth is, you were losing yourself, piece by piece, moment by moment. You shrank your voice, ignored your needs, changed your shape, just to keep peace, just to be loved. You made yourself small, so others could feel big. You made yourself quiet, so others wouldn't leave. And slowly, you disappeared. You forgot how to rest, how to be still, how to be alone. Because alone felt unsafe. Silence felt loud. Space felt like abandonment. So you filled it with people, with noise, with chaos, and called it connection. But connection without self is not love. It's dependency. And dependency always comes with fear. Fear of rejection, fear of betrayal, fear of being forgotten. That fear ruled your life. You stayed in friendships that drained you. You clung to partners that broke you. You said yes when your body screamed no. You gave second chances when you had nothing left to give, because you thought loving others meant abandoning yourself. But it doesn't. Love doesn't require self-betrayal. Love doesn't demand your silence. Love doesn't punish you for having needs. Real love meets you where you are, not where you pretend to be. And to find it, you have to let go. Let go of roles. Let go of masks. Let go of proving. Let go of performing. That's detachment, not apathy, not disconnection, but inner safety, so strong that you no longer grasp, You no longer beg. You no longer chase. You let people be. You let life flow. You stay rooted, no matter who stays, no matter who goes. You stop arguing with reality. You stop resisting endings. You stop attaching your identity to someone else's attention. That's the freedom you've been avoiding. Because freedom is scary. It means responsibility. It means facing the void. It means sitting with pain, without distraction, without a savior, without someone to blame. This was Ava's turning point. She had always been the strong one, the helper, the fixer, the giver. She was proud of it until she wasn't, until her partner left, and she realized she had given everything: time, energy, emotion, support, and received so little back. But she didn't even blame him. She blamed herself. I should have done more. I should have been enough. That voice haunted her, until one day she asked herself, if I gave so much, why am I empty? And that broke her. In the best way. She cried for hours. Not for him. For her. For the years she spent abandoning her own heart. She decided to stop. She stopped chasing. Stopped fixing. Stopped proving. She started therapy. Started journaling. Started going to bed early. Started drinking water. Tiny acts, but sacred ones. She learned to ask, what do I need? Not what do they need from me? She learned to pause, to breathe, to say no. It felt awkward, unnatural, even selfish, but it was healing. Now Ava still loves deeply, but differently, with openness, not obligation, with compassion, not self-erasure, with truth, not performance. She doesn't text back instantly. She doesn't explain everything. She doesn't feel guilty for choosing peace. She holds space for others without letting them take hers. That's detachment. It's love with edges. It's softness with strength. It's clarity with care. It's presence without pressure. You can reach this too. But first, you must come home to yourself. You must face the fear you've been running from. The fear of being alone, of being misunderstood, of being forgotten. Feel it, name it, hold it, then let it pass. You are not your fear. You are not your past. You are not who they needed you to be. You are who you choose to become. And you can choose wholeness, choose boundaries, choose slowness, choose truth. Even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when it means walking away, especially then, because that's the path to inner freedom, not controlling others, but coming back to yourself over and over again until you remember you are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be fully and fearlessly yourself, and that is more than enough.